Can you remind me, sorry to ask this again,
No.
can you remind me of the secured Wi-Fi password in here?
There isn't, actually for that there is, yes.
Yelling
Capital
about
T, town, capital W, wireless,
Maybe think of it.
03861. Forgetting what there 2 seconds.
Okay. I like the little clusters, you know.
Awesome.
Oh, that's gonna be annoying.
Okay, for the sake of the public and anyone else who's here tonight, do we need to back up at all to explain how?
I don't think so, because almost everyone's been
Yeah,
here.
I think you're in good shape to go.
All right, so, but I will just summarize where we left off. We reviewed a concept that Port One and Carino had put together for the last meeting. And we also reviewed a compilation of all of the sort of floor plans that had popped up in all of the information that had been provided to us. We got feedback on what was working well or what was perceived to be working well from some of those floor plans. And we also got some feedback on the concept that we presented. And what we came away with was a direction to work with a similar layout that had been given to us, but try to implement some of the things that we had shown in our concept. And so the result of that is what we sent over earlier today, and I'll pull that up now. Actually, I'll show you a concept that I put together prior to the most recent one. Let's see if I can make this bigger. All right, so this is essentially a variation of the plan that everybody sort of was referring to
Yep.
here, if you remember. And this was given to us by,
Is that okay? Can you still see?
I can see, great.
It's kind of dark back here.
Is there a way that, sorry, we apologize. Is there a way to just have this one in the middle off so people can see the screen then?
No, it's either, it's like all or none then, as far as.
It used to be.
Yeah, that's good.
That's better.
That's good, fine.
Okay.
Okay, so this was the floor plan that was provided to us. And it was pointed out that they like a central lobby that has access to all of the departments off of one secure central lobby that would limit access to the public to the rest of the building. What's different about ours is that we had decided to move towards a slab-on-grade, one-story concept and continue to develop that as opposed to something like this that shows stairs to the basement.
Yep.
Okay, so from the feedback and that concept, I developed this, which is very similar to what you saw in a bit of a different footprint size and incorporating some of the feedback that we got. What I'll show you about this that I want to highlight here is that this corridor area right here could potentially be
To the public?
this would be secure from the rest of the building and have access into it through this secure point here. And this corridor right here would be accessible during after hours. So this would give you access to a small conference room, medium-sized conference room,
Mhm.
a break room, and an accessible ADA, accessible compliant restroom for whoever's using the building after hours. So that would make this a secure point, and this a secure point. I don't want to dwell on this iteration too long, because I moved on to something that I think was an improvement on this.
We like improvements.
Okay, so what I didn't like about that previous version that I showed you is that access to the part of the building that would be available after hours was around the back of the building.
Yeah.
So in this version, we're providing access to a secured area in the building through the end, over here. And this would give after-hours access to a meeting room, a break room, and a bathroom, similar to what you saw before, but in a different area of the building. The other thing I did in this iteration is eliminated some corridor space.
Mhm.
There was an egress door going out the back, and I was able to eliminate that and still make everything work with circulation through the space. So this lobby, not lobby, but this sort of window service area right here would be for planning, zoning, wording, planning, zoning, building. This area over here, town clerk, obviously, and then we incorporated this sort of private, more private access clerk lobby for sensitive conversations. I shrunk the lobby down a little bit to provide more space for the town clerk, and shifted things a little bit to accommodate some of this over here. So we have assistant town admin with their access for the public at the window here. An ADA compliant lav off of the lobby, which was an important feature that was conveyed to us to try to maintain. We have a more central, smaller, albeit smaller, print copy area. This is assuming that some of these departments might have print copy in their office and not want to have to go to a central location. I know in other towns that that's important for the town clerk. They're doing a lot of printing. But there is a central copy print area. Utilizing the core of the building without any access to windows for storage, and a decent sized mechanical, electrical room with IT in there. Direct access off the back of the building for service. And this is sort of TBD for how these offices might be used, depending upon your feedback. You know, and then account files, this was sort of a holdover from what this one showed, so I'm not sure how relevant that is and if that is critical to have on an exterior wall with a window, but that is obviously up for further conversation. We did our walkthrough of the existing building today. Got some really good feedback, probably most significantly from planning, zoning, building, about their desire to have more of an open area.
Mhm.
They, at least the folks who are there currently, expressed an interest in not having private offices because they frequently work on the same projects at the same time. So if somebody comes in from the town to discuss something, it typically requires attention from both of them. Or if somebody's on a phone conversation, it's not an inconvenience for the other person to be listening in and hearing. It also provides them an area where they can have meetings with people who come in and be able to sort of see who's coming in, have an area for sit down, have access quickly to all of the files that they need to, which seem to be important to them. So that would be a revision that I would try to incorporate into this. But you can see that we have plenty of room to do that here. We've got planning, zoning, building, office, and meeting room, so there's plenty of room to implement that. Just going back to the secure lobby, so this door here would be a secure point. This door here would be a secure point. This would be the way that people from the public come into the main office through this secure point. Central, plenty of visibility. This door here would be secure, obviously, and so would this one. I think that covers it.
That's great. It's come a long way.
We didn't forget the shower.
I wasn't gonna say.
There's plenty of areas where we can
Yeah,
incorporate that into here, so just move some things around, but.
yeah, I think that's easily somewhere, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go as far as populating the break room with cabinetry and sinks and everything, and, because I know that things would move around a little bit, so,
Of course.
based on your feedback tonight, we'll make a list of things that work and don't work and see where we go.
Mr. Tappan, you have something to add?
A question, how does planning and zoning allow a member of the public or a contractor into the building to their office space?
Yeah, right there.
They would come in through here.
And they
through
can
this
see
door.
them in the windows there.
I think that's what he's asking, is the
Yeah,
reception.
I mean, I see the
This
door.
would actually be the,
Right, so these two windows here provide service for the public from planning, zoning, building.
Right.
And then they would get that into their offices if they need to, through here.
Yep.
Through this door here.
So they would, everyone that comes in the building would come in the same entrance, and then they would go to where they need to go or just in the lobby.
The idea would be that this being a secure point, somebody would need to get buzzed in
Correct.
to
So-
activate the latch on that.
So buzzed in from the planning and zoning office.
From wherever, there could be multiple points of, there could be the ability for multiple people to let somebody in if they need to from other areas of the building at that door.
With the contractor's muddy boots.
They'll have to come in this door over here.
it's a continual battle right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose during the day, it's possible that this door could be unlocked if people wanted it to,
Right.
and they could maintain security at this door, and obviously this one would be locked preferably if this one was open, so that if somebody, say a contractor, for example, came in this way, they could only get to that point before they'd have to be let in.
Okay, that's great, thank you. Yeah, I was wondering last time I had mentioned that about the planning, zoning, not wanting different offices.
Right, and Evan talked with both Karen and Bill today, and they made it pretty clear that they like the open
Yeah.
space, and I think you could easily do that and still have, with a large window there, give them the ability to quickly respond to people.
So let's say one of them quits, the other one cannot think while the other one's on the phone. Do we have an option for how we would handle that, or would we rethink how we use the meeting room? Because like they do great that way, I don't know how to get any work done if I had someone else chatting.
Well, they have a little bit of privacy because of the way their present lobby sort of divides them up, and I think that makes it workable.
So could they have like a half wall or something that could always be built out in the future?
You could have a half wall, or you could put interior divider or something along those lines in there.
Have a door in between the offices that they could keep open unless they wanted it closed?
I guess, although I think both of them were pretty adamant that they like having a central open space.
I know, I just don't want to build a building for two individuals to get along really, really well and think really well. I want to make sure that there's the future, if people change, that we haven't
Mhm.
forced them into a situation.
Operable partition?
Yeah,
Yeah.
at a minimum, we would lay a window configuration out so that if we wanted to break that open space up with one or two private offices in the future, it would be a
That'd be
straightforward way of doing it.
Yeah, so you're like just planning ahead for the future,
Yeah.
right? If there's a change or something happens. Planning.
You can always add soundboards too to the walls that kind of like absorb sound.
Okay.
There. If it's a big room and they're on opposite ends, that could help a little bit.
That's really good so far. How about you?
Yeah, no, so I assume the kitchenette would be in the break room, that's what you were
Correct.
thinking, and then,
Yeah.
Andy, does this reflect your list of offices that are necessary?
It doesn't, one of the things that I had talked with Evan about was I had relabeled some of those offices as just multi-use offices.
Okay,
The space is there, but clearly, depending on what happens with general assistance, right now we have an office for the supervisors of the checklist that is used, every few weeks. Conservation Commission probably uses their office once a week. The Ag and Heritage Office has never been used for anything except to pile stuff.
So you could have this, like this one, this like select board could just be an office that's kept clean, and then they could have like a storage area if you have something you need to use, you could grab that out of that.
I think you could equip, 2 or 3 multi-use offices, have, maybe make storage area in another one, but have those equipped with the appropriate computer, a link to the printer, the copier, that sort of thing, and people could rotate in and out. The one that probably needs the most security with regard to that, although they use laptops a great deal, are the supervisors of the checklist. They need very definite secure storage and computer that they can lock down and secure.
Perfect. Okay, that's great. Did you have?
2 questions. What is the overall dimension? Can't read it from back here.
96 by 52.
96 by 52, thank you. And did you, was it said that conservation would have a shared office, or we would
Correct.
not have?
Nothing is cast in stone, but that was one of the things that we had discussed, was having multi-use offices, because we have at least 3 groups right now that are using offices on a once a week or once every other week type basis. So have secure storage space for each individual entity, but possibly have shared office space.
Like as a select board member, if I want to have a meeting with somebody, I don't have a space in the office right now that I can go to a meeting, and I'm on the select board that's like, that fits. But if you had that, and maybe there was, the Conservation Commission's always using it, and they have a few files in there, but it's also set up to share, then you're not having to build an entire other office for rare use. But you'd have something that somebody could meet in, so they weren't having to be at their home or at a copy.
I think you could also have multiple computer setups in each office, so different groups could have their specific.
I imagine that would happen over here on this left side.
yeah.
Exactly, yeah, that area. Really those top, upper left.
And we may have enough, so you could give the supervisors of the checklist, the Conservation Commission, each an office, and then have one multi-use office
Yeah.
beyond that. That the general assistance clerk could use if they were in the office.
Correct. And things will ebb and flow too. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I would just like to throw in the Lee Energy Commission as one of those multi-use office people. I mean, we don't need the space that, like the Conservation Commission needs for files and stuff. It would be nice to have a place with a table and a computer that we could access, because we do need a computer periodically.
Yeah, and that was some of my thinking beyond having at least one multi-use office where you could come in, you could automatically link into the big copier, scanner, have access to all of that.
And if, let's say you guys came in that day, you wanted to meet a few of you, and then the Conservation Commission came in, and then another one, like, it'd be nice to have a few different spaces, so that you don't have to like sit there and, schedule out the time. You can just know that, okay, there's a few offices, we'll pop in whichever one.
Yeah, we have one whole wall of the existing building that doesn't see use in those offices more than once a week. The assessing office has the assessing person in there on Monday or Tuesday for 7 hours, and the rest of the time it sits vacant. Conservation Commission, typically, we'll get maybe 2 half-days use during the week, and quite a number of weeks go by where somebody comes in for an hour or 2 hours, and that sits vacant the rest of the week. As I said, the Ag and the Heritage Commission office has never been used, and the supervisors of the checklist are also very sporadic. But as I look at what we've got now, we've got 4 or 5 offices in a row that literally are used for a few hours a week occasionally,
Why, frankly, I didn't know there was any office space other than the public safety building that we could
Exactly,
use.
yep, exactly.
So, that's,
Now you know.
now we know.
But it's hard when you see like a name on a door and you're like, oh, that's not for me, but really it's an empty space, there's no reason you, so if it was called like the multi-purpose or something, you would know, oh, no one's in here, I can use that.
The only person that's been in the general assistance office in over 2 years now is me, and that was probably for 15 minutes each occasion. So things
no
like
need
that,
for
I
a
think
whole
we
room
could make
for that.
better use of.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, last week or a couple of weeks ago, when we were talking about this meeting room that has kind of its own entrance, that was to appease different departments that might not be full-time in the building, but can kind of have easy access into the building without having to go through the main lobby and maybe, disturb the rest of the full-time employees that are working. So you kind of have this separate entrance to get into a space to have meetings or do whatever you may need.
Yeah.
So that was something that we tried to incorporate in this concept, yeah.
I have just a question following on Ann. Is the size of the building, is that set? Is that something that the town identified, or is this something you guys identified as and is that already set, in other words?
It's not carved in stone, but we were given information that the target was around 4,800 square feet. So we're trying to play in the 4,800 to 5,000 square foot range.
And
No.
and is it identified yet where on the particular piece of land it's gonna be and how it's gonna be angled or whatever?
In general and south facing, yes.
Yeah.
With a nice big roof, we've asked not to have like a lot of stuff in the way, but yeah,
Okay, thank you.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll just point one other thing out.
Perfect.
The location of this horizontal invisible line which is demarked by walls that are all
Oh,
around
like
us
the
to
roof?
provide a bearing point
Yeah.
for our trusses. So there would most likely be a column here in the middle.
Yep.
To pick up a beam running across here, but these walls here would be bearing points for the trusses, which would run top to bottom.
So that looks nice because it looks like you have a really large, like it'd be bigger in the front than in the back, right? For the
Yeah,
roof.
but so the trusses are engineered anyway, so they'll just engineer it to the span doesn't have to be split equally
Got it.
for the bearing point.
Okay.
So it can be offset like this, but we do try to keep it somewhere near the center of the building
Makes sense.
to break that span up.
It's great.
That's kind of why this wall lands, well, it's exactly why this wall lands where it is and why this wall is lined up with this one.
Yep.
And there'd be a header across here and then that carries across over here.
One other thing that I really like about this floor plan versus the layout that you have now is you kind of have this corridor that goes around the whole building.
Yep.
But with this, you have a lot of opportunity to increase the number of secure checkpoints. Like I see
Yes.
you could add a wall and a door kind of going into the offices around the left. You could, there's lots of opportunity to kind of separate it a little bit more if your needs kind of evolve over time. We don't need the public to have access to this space, or we want to be able to lock this off. Or I see by the way the corridors are kind of, it's not in a circular kind of square pattern. It gives you some more flexibility to increase the security, I think, so.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, the oval that we have in the existing building is really disorienting,
Yeah.
and really confusing to a lot of people.
I felt
Yeah,
confused.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's
Kinda
very
like, have we been
strange.
in this room before?
Yeah.
Well, we have people that have, been in multiple times that do that. We'll meet them by the copy room and they'll ask which end is which, that sort of thing, and it's not uncommon at all. And
Yeah, I like how this gives you like little nooks and areas where it kind of feels like it's really certain things in certain areas. So you kind of know, oh, I'm in the area, whatever. So somebody's coming in for their office, they kind of have maybe.
One other point I'll bring up here is that it has been talked about in previous meetings about the potential to be able to add on to this building in the future.
Yes, that's great.
So you can see there's an access door to a corridor on both ends of the building to make it very easy to add on to it.
Fabulous. That way we don't have to build for some future size, we can build for what we need right now, and then shrink or grow as needed.
And as long as there's no interior color contrast, we have white floor, white
White.
walls,
I vote no on
So
white
we
walls,
have-
but I assume anyway, yeah, that's really a
Really
look.
enhances the dirt.
Yeah.
Lovely.
We should talk about an art installation in the future and actually put some art on the walls. Yeah. This is looking great. I think this is the closest we've been, of course, which makes sense the whole time, so this is great.
What we probably ought to do, I'm sure, if you look at it a little closer over a day or two, you might come up with some additional comments that you can pass on to us.
Yeah, we're complainers, so we'll absolutely find things to complain about, that's no problem, but yes.
We like it.
You just know you still have to find that shower spot, so like at least you have a job.
Stephanie picked up on that first thing this
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah, it's like, this looks really good.
Well, I think it was good that you talked to Karen this afternoon. She has a lot of input. She's a longtime resident as well as an employee, so.
Yeah.
She's given you sort of.
Is
double-
Karen the assistant town admin?
No, planning.
No, she's planning and zoning director.
Oh, Karen in the, right, in the back.
Right.
Is it Diane who's in the front?
Denise, but
Denise.
close.
And is she the assistant town
Yes.
administrator? Okay.
She'll be here shortly.
So while we're talking about input, I guess, that survey that I sent over, I'm almost wondering if that is worth it to send out to the employees, or if you think that'll just open up a can of worms and,
I think it's probably worth it to send out.
Okay.
The town clerk's office wasn't open today, and the town clerk has, some very specific interests and concerns, so I think either having the survey go or
Could we have this?
getting you, yeah, or getting you on the phone with the town clerk, or both, would be helpful.
I think that's the one person that worries me, is that if they have to come out and like hand something to somebody, they have to walk out all the way, halfway across the building, down, around, and over to that person. So that's,
We could get a door in this wall if we needed to.
Yeah, and I don't know that they particularly want,
they don't do much.
they don't bring people back behind the counter, and in fact, they're not supposed to, given the nature of the documents and the money, that
Let's
sort of
say
thing.
they order Uber Eats. Can they get their lunch?
So we could do a pass-through at
So
Clerk
I have the
Hall.
equivalent of Uber Eats right now in the town office, and I hand things directly through their window.
Perfect, all right, then we're all set. I love it. So yeah, so those are easy. Those are not like, we're trying to figure out what's the building, what's the general idea, and then we're gonna tweak the little things later.
It would be very rare that the town clerk's office would bring somebody back behind the counter.
No, I was just thinking if they had to bring something out, like they had a large something to hand somebody. I don't know what that would be, I mean, license plates and paperwork isn't very big, but.
Well, the times that they come out, if she does weddings, she comes out, they typically use the meeting room.
Well, that's fair, but then she would just go there, so. And
In
then
any
that's-
large deliveries, there's egress right through there.
Yeah, I love that, exactly.
And they do get a fair amount of, when license plates come, that sort of thing, it's a big hand truck load full of.
Which is why it's so great to have a door there, because you can deliver right into the vault. Which if you think about it, that's the most things that are coming in large quantities is there, so it's perfect. Except for maybe like toilet paper, paper towels, which can come in there.
What we would typically do from here is to incorporate any comments that you have into a revised version of this, and then lay out some more detailed components like break room, countertops, sink area, get the shower in there if that's a priority. Put any closets in offices that might have specific needs for closets within the office space. I did a rough window layout here, but I would probably refine that a bit. And then try to quickly move into exterior elevations to give you an idea of the massing of the building.
Mr. Tappan, did you have something to add?
Two things. Room dimensions are needed. if anybody's gonna think about this thing seriously. And then, is there a custodial closet?
Yes, janitor.
Right here, yeah.
Okay.
So I generally don't put, this is a great point about the dimensions. I generally don't put them on an early concept plan just because it tends to distract from the layout and where walls are. So I try to present this in a way that is, you can clearly see which rooms are what. And then on the next version, I would have a clean version like this and also another one that has the dimensions on it for people who are.
I was particularly thinking about that meeting room size.
This room over here.
Yes.
I think that's about 16 by 16 maybe, 14 by 16, something like that.
Do we have a meeting room size that everyone's hankering for, we should think about?
I don't think so. The one that we have presently seems to work pretty well for most of the planning and zoning
Right.
meetings. I'm not sure of the dimensions of the existing one. I didn't bring those.
Basically needs to be able to fit, like if they're having like a party or something, everyone can be in there. If they're having, you know, a meeting with people. But any like large select board meeting would be hopefully in the old town hall.
Yeah, if we had a good idea of what the target number of occupants for that meeting room is, we would design to that.
Perfect.
So this being a medium-sized conference room, I would think would probably accommodate 10 people. So if we needed to get it to a size where we could get 16 people in there, we'd want to stretch it, for
Adjust
sure.
some other things.
You're not thinking about this building being used for the elections, are you?
No,
No.
not at all. So the renovation to the town hall, this would be the town municipal building, the town hall renovations would give us a nice big space. That'd be options.
No, it doesn't.
The town hall.
Town hall is smaller than downstairs meeting room.
Yeah.
Okay. We still haven't had this, we have that for pending, and then we have that's right. Go ahead, Pam.
Question about the meeting room. Right now, the planning board doesn't use that. They use the room down here, downstairs here. Zoning board does use it, and the number of people, I don't go to all the meetings, but with Conservation Commission, go regularly. And it's not unusual to have to run out of seats and space and have people standing. It depends on the project, and if there's a lot of neighbors, concerns, or supporters, could go either way. That room, I consider it quite marginal. The zoning board members they're sitting, you know, almost shoulder to shoulder around the little table.
And why do they fit in that room and not come into one of these two, do you know?
I'm sorry, say that
Do you
again?
know why the zoning board meets in that meeting room instead of in one of these meetings?
I believe it's because of access to records. Karen would be the person to talk to, because in both cases, she's the representative there.
Okay.
But, and it varies widely on how many people come to the meetings. I mean, here you have a meeting about an important topic and how many people are here.
Right.
But with the zoning, it seems small.
And that meeting room is approximately 14 feet, 4 inches by almost 27 feet long.
Yeah, and we use that meeting room for a number of other groups. Affordable Housing Committee, for example, meets there. When we've had
Table.
forestry meetings, we've met there. If I meet with utilities or something like that, we'll typically meet there as well.
Yeah, which is convenient. So that's the thing too, I was saying it's too bad we can't put the meeting room of planning and zoning and the regular meeting room together. Like, let's say you swapped where the break room was or something.
There's one large,
Yeah, like, and then have dividers, whatever, like, because planning and zoning is like, we want to be able to leave stuff out of the project we're working on. But if only once in a while we need a bigger room, could we put the meeting rooms together, have the divider like we did on there, and then you can make it a bigger or smaller space. If planning and zoning is in the middle of a big project, great, use that big table they have it next to their office. But if they're not, and we happen to have a big planning and zoning, or a zoning meeting, then open it up.
Yeah, you could certainly shrink the planning and zoning meeting room.
Yeah, this will all get reconfigured here,
Yeah, once you
obviously.
open it up.
And this will get smaller because my understanding is their meeting space is kind of within their office right now.
Yeah.
So it would just open up, everything would kind of, this wall wouldn't be here, this wall probably wouldn't be here. We'll see how that shakes out, but
That would give a lot more room.
everything could shift to the, these two could shift to the left and open this up quite a bit.
And then create access from planning zoning building to the large meeting room. So that when they have those meetings, they have access to the
Yeah.
files that they need.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, good points, good things we can tweak. I think a little convertible officing and meeting something. Flexibility within the offices. All right, what else do we have?
I don't know if there's one else. Just-
Do you guys have more questions that we can help with?
I guess if you have any feedback on that survey,
Did you send us feedback? I'm sure that I didn't respond to.
you may not have been on that email. and they
Okay,
just-
I was gonna say, I normally am good about
Sorry.
I'll
responding.
circulate it to everyone in some.
It's no problem, I just didn't wanna have
It
missed
was
an
a little
email.
last minute. so
No,
you may not have
that's
sent
fair.
it, yeah.
That's fair.
I'll send
But
it
yeah,
to them.
that would be great, thank you.
It's just about
We want to
me.
make sure we have your blessing on, exactly what we're asking them.
I appreciate it.
So I said, I think you spoke with planning and zoning today, and probably the next most input you're gonna get is from the town clerk.
Okay.
And you were in their office today and saw that there's not a lot of space as it is now, and
Right.
Yeah, it's rough. Cause there's all the dogs.
well, their dogs are small though.
Yeah, getting that feedback will be important here, because we could pull this window wall to the left a little bit. Obviously, that shrinks the lobby, so then there's this balance between privacy and expanding town clerk. So just getting some feedback on what they need for space will help.
Yeah, I think the vault space, whether that's a true vault or whether they're with their collection of vaults that they have now in that space, but that in and of itself would make a huge
Now,
difference.
hear me out, you make the meeting room bigger up there, you move it this way, and all of a sudden that lavatory has room for a shower.
Oh, God.
We can expand the building,
Yeah,
I mean,
you
a
have
couple
to
feet to the,
give it that space and I need. Beautiful.
I have a
You're so funny, I
shower.
have to have something I drive you crazy on.
I like the cost analysis on the shower.
Yes, she would very much like that. Right.
I'm just curious, you're talking about shrinking the lobby out there. Is there space now for, where you could put chairs or a bench or something where people
Oh,
can sit?
Very good point when they're waiting, that's a good
Because
idea.
I go into there, especially around tax time, people are in line. Be nice to be able to sit down.
That's great.
that's good feedback.
And also people who are in wheelchairs, making space for them.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great point. I'd probably just shift this wall to the right a little bit, move these doors to the right a little bit, and provide space right there,
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, it's fairly limited. I think right now we have just 2 odd chairs in the office. They're almost always full. They're all-
yeah, that's a great point, I like that, and if it's in a way that they can kind of be in line, but also, yeah, that'd be great, because people do wanna sit. I think it's cool.
I also considered extending this wall
Yeah.
up a little bit, right here.
Yep.
So this can come up a little bit, provide
A little bit more wall
a
space.
little bit more wall space along here. Yep.
Yeah, or we could just put a really nice velvet circle table or
Oh, I
something.
like that.
Like back in like old Hollywood.
It's right there in the middle. Sure.
Maybe a fountain in the middle for that.
Yeah, exactly.
What if it rotated so that when it's your turn,
Oh my
you
gosh,
would
I
feel like
love
you're next?
We're not all like really tired and over everything this week at all, so it's fine. Great points from the audience, if anyone else has anything else they want to add. Okay. So what's next steps? Survey?
Yes, survey, and, well, I mentioned what my next step would be for the
Perfect.
design and layout. We'll pull that together and
We need to do
Start
things for
working
you.
through exterior.
Oh, I like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
so floor concept, floor plan, that's the next, that's the big one. So we'll tweak this slightly, and then we'll start working on exterior and start talking exterior materials.
Really good insulation and
Of course, yeah.
fabulously
Yeah.
thought out.
Durable
You can see you back
products,
there.
almost maintenance-free as much as you can.
Perfect.
Talked about metal roofs from the town last week, or 2 weeks ago. We'll come up with some siding materials and things like that.
I think, just with regard to metal roofs, I think the comment was made that the majority of town buildings or something like that have metal roofs, and that is not the case.
Yeah.
We have actually very little metal roof in the town, so I think, you know, whatever works best for the design and the budget, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not married to
I have
metal
zero
roofs.
attachment to what you use for a roof, I just want it to fit solar and I want it to not be dangerous.
Sure.
And well insulated, those are really good. How about you, do you have any attachments to
I do.
roofing materials?
No.
We're wonderfully unattached, so yeah, whatever you think is the right choice. And I don't think we're attached to a certain kind of siding or, yeah, so whatever you guys are.
I would argue for whatever kind of windows are the most, if you're
Efficient.
thinking about that,
Yeah.
windows that have the most insulation,
Yeah.
you know, the multiple pane glass, that kind of thing, whatever
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah, I don't think we would do your standard white vinyl windows. We'll recommend like a high R value or fiberglass window
Mhm.
is really where you should wanna go. They'll, for just maintenance and durability for the long term.
And we can get some assistance from New Hampshire Saves on that as well, right?
They'll look at your overall,
Yeah. That'll help bring the cost down a little bit as we increase the tightness.
Hmm?
We can have some help. One thing that I was told last time we were doing this was to have the person who does the cleaning of the buildings look at it for like how they think of maintaining the building, because that costs money if it's harder, so I don't know, we have a group now that does it, but
We do.
they had like a thought like, oh, that's so hard when you,
I can certainly review this with Fabiano, he's very cooperative.
That'd be great.
To talk about things like that, so.
yeah, if there's something that we're just not thinking of, but like if you're actually dealing with the building and it's just such a frustration because of whatever, I don't know, I can't imagine. I don't know.
I'm sure that they would be interested because they are residents and taxpayers too. And
Perfect.
and even the size of the janitor's room, I mean, that will come into play. We had a good vision today in the janitors, a lot of their product is stored in the mechanical room. So we definitely wanna try to separate.
Yeah, put those together. Yeah, that's a good point. And so what are the things you wish you could have, but there's nowhere to store? So is there a, floor cleaning machine you wish you could have, but there's no place?
yeah, and some of that is stored over here as well as in odd spaces.
So they have to transport it over every time they want to clean?
Dave transports a fair amount of paper product and that sort of thing
Okay.
from this building over there.
Yeah.
All
right.
And the design team were the first ones to see our shiny new expansion tank for the water system.
Nice,
impressive.
nice.
Blew up on Friday or Saturday.
That's so fun. That's great. It's just never ending with that building. I just want to keep it forever. I love paying for someone else's repairs. Okay. Great.
So storage, feedback on some of the storage, as you work through it, if that's enough of the size.
I mean, the amount of storage you have is the amount of storage you'll use, and if you have more, you'll use more.
True.
So I don't know, I'm a little hesitant to want to like go crazy.
Mhm.
But I think thoughtfully organized would be really important.
Sure.
One of the things I think that you mentioned last time that probably isn't as aesthetically pleasing as it might be, but you had talked about some sort of add-on with possibly garage door or garage doors. And we have a fair amount of storage things for the town fair and for breakfasts and we have signage, tables, all that sort of thing.
Empty storage container though, right now? Did you tell us one of the storage containers was empty? Or practically empty?
Sort of empty. There's some library stuff in it.
So once the library stuff though returns to the library, that storage container, couldn't that be used for some of this stuff?
We'd like to get rid of
It
that.
could be, it's still fairly limited. Those storage containers are not open storage containers. They have these sort of bizarre welded-in shelves that come out from the sides that are, so for things like tables and large bulky things, they are not
So
optimal.
is this the building for that, or is a different building the building for that?
Maybe a different building is, but we had talked briefly about being able to put a structure like on the back
Yeah.
corner out of sight with a garage door in it, and I think that there is definitely use for that. Right now, we have some things in the hobo shed, we have some things in the storage container, we have some things in the range, I believe.
The hobo shed's probably not going anywhere, so might as well keep storing stuff in it and make sure we use it for something.
Or, yeah, we need to look at an outer building for storage, like the one that Massway just built.
Yeah, something like those
Yeah,
lines.
because I hate the idea of having like a big garage
Yeah,
door
that's
that's not
silly.
energy efficient.
I think
Whatever they want.
Yeah,
we've got lots of space, so we
Storage
could always
container.
put a
Yeah.
shed somewhere on the back of this property, right?
We're thinking about that right now. Okay. We're not feeling the garage door, but we can whatever, open to it all.
Great. Thanks for the input.
You guys are fabulous, thanks for getting all this organized and done for us so quickly.
So, John,
Our next meeting together is that the annual one?
next Monday.
No?
Yes, I'll be here next Monday.
Absolutely. In my jammies with a big cup of tea. That's the next select board meeting.
We gotta get Christmas and then New Year's in the next 2 Mondays.
Yeah. So I know we're meeting, the Board of Selectmen meeting on the 3rd, but it's a regular meeting. But we could talk about something if something came up where we needed to discuss something. We also have a public meeting on the 8th. That could be another option. And then we have the 17th written down as a building.
What's the bond? We talked about that last time, but we didn't have a date for doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Is that the public meeting on the 8th?
no, I have not scheduled this yet. We would have to do the bond hearing, and the logistical problem I have is we're going to need a number.
Okay.
Which would be a budget, a range.
Yep.
Going off concepts. We're designing to the RFP advertised by it, so I don't expect to change that number,
Okay,
if that helps.
let me,
And I think that's a good range for us to work into.
okay, I will nail that down tomorrow and be in contact with you and the rest of your board then.
Okay, perfect. All right, yes, if you need to meet sooner, just let us know. We'll see you guys soon.
What did we just decide?
We decided
You're
that,
gonna find out tomorrow.
well, we decided that we are gonna be here on the 3rd, the 8th, and the 17th. So any of those, we specifically have the 17th as a building meeting. But if you want to talk to us before then, the 8th or the 3rd would work.
Okay.
We have another one scheduled, a building meeting on the 29th, I don't know if that matters, but. All right. Of January, just January. Building select board meeting. I tried to go them all the ones in that were. Denise had this one, right?
Yep. And she'll be here in a little bit. I did not get a call back or text from Scott. I did get a text from the police chief saying that you want to meet with him in non-public in the interim between building and whatever he's downstairs. Happy to do that.
Okay. All right, so we're good.
He would send his email.
Yeah, I've been thinking, I just haven't talked to my agents, and I thought I should send him an email about something, I don't know, just to communicate.
Yeah, he would love that.
Yeah.
His struggle is talking to people, because
Yeah, because we're legally
because
posted
he's
at 6.
lost so much memory.
But we can wrap up as much as
He's
possible between now and
Very
then.
self-conscious about talking to people. If people are
consent
talking to
agenda is
him
fairly
about
straightforward.
what's happening
There's
today, or what's
documents
happening in the
for
future,
the
that's
Conservation
fine.
Commission,
He
Pat
can do
Jones,
that.
that
And he's fine one-on-one, but it also he's got the hearing issue. And so if he's in a group meeting, it takes
Think he's
quite a
coming
while
back?
to
Is that what you're
process
telling
all the different voices.
Sure.
So
And the
that's
driveway
a struggle
permit
for
and the
him.
intent.
But one-on-one, he's really pretty good.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
So, yeah, I would encourage it, because he himself knows that he needs to be more outgoing and social, but he's not. You know, he never has been anyway, so
Okay.
it's,
Yeah, well, that's, neither of us are, we're not, we don't dislike.
but it's not like, you're not an outgoing person.
No,
We're
no,
not-
no.
we're the extrovert.
We're not,
That's
but one-on-one.
That's why we need
it's
to tell us
definitely
how
a
many
preference
people
of
got
a
here.
couple of people, but
Yeah.
lots of, I mean, it's the way I've always been.
Why don't you start
So
in that room?
so I get it about preferring.
Yeah, Bill and I are the same way.
I can surely
We
ask Tom.
socialize, we're just such.
You guys know we can't meet until 6, otherwise.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry.
We just wanted to get here early, just.
But he knows he
Hey,
should.
better early than late,
and-
right?
Exactly.
On time is late.
And he enjoys it once he does it,
Mm.
but taking the initiative.
We're glad you did.
initiatives-
Thanks for coming.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's just part of the cognitive
So you're
thing.
gonna charge that.
I'm at 50%, so if you need to.
But he's doing well, he's staying upbeat, and
I
he's
get
got
that.
a good,
Okay.
good doctors working.
We're gonna wait on the consent in case.
On some meds that will help,
Mm.
which is, that's a good thing. Yes.
You still have a dog?
No, we did have a dog, he died a few years ago, and then we got a cat. That's one thing we've been working on right now. I've been encouraging him to think about getting a dog. So we may do the foster dog thing and see if that works. And see if how that works. I know he would love, I mean, he used to complain about not taking the dogs, but he loved it. And Caleb was a great dog. And, but we have to see how any dogs get along with their cats. Of course, is the dominant person in the
Dominant family member.
He has one eye, but he still holds his own.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's, we're working on that. I think we just haven't had time to do that. I plan to do that for Christmas.
It's a big commitment, taking on a new pet.
It is.
And especially, I would say especially dog.
Yeah. So we'll see. I could see a foster, if, I don't know what their rules are about it. That's the thing, yeah, in terms of travel, and we still want to travel. You've got a trip planned to Baja in March to go see the gray whales. That's something I'm waiting for. He's excited about that. And then he identified a trip to Croatia in the fall. So we'll see if we can do that. The thing is, we used to do all this on our own. We used to share planning, and in the last 2 years, I'm doing all the planning. It's exhausting. And I'm thinking, well, we've always said, oh, we don't really want to do tours.
I really remember you.
Now we're.
She's such a heartbreaker.
And other people to go and do the organization. It's more expensive that way. But we both love travel.
Hilarious story ever. I love it.
And he loves it. And it's just kind of like, gets him out, we went to Arizona in October.
Who is that?
I think I saw that, yeah, I noticed that too, and I went wondering the other bathroom.
Yeah, that's why I just said.
But I figured it was like a temporary
Her
thing, but I
parents
thought it was
to meet them. And he had a great time hiking. He loves hiking.
Are you having
And,
your
I know.
So, although he's
Oh, I actually just shake it because I
he's
put all the
slow,
heavy stuff.
but
on
I'm
the
slow
box
too.
and
I've
I
got,
get-
I'm the one who has
I put
all
the-
the
I
joint
put the rest
issues.
down.
He's
I put the heavy
absolutely,
stuff down.
you know,
I put the
physically,
lettuce, I
he's
put the crucial,
healthy.
the lettuce
It's
that was
disgusting.
soggy. But it's really more just
Struggle
that paper.
to get around because of all the arthritis and stuff I've got. But, so we're equal in that, even though he's 12 years old. We have,
But I did see on Yahoo.
we're equal in terms of our physical abilities right now. But, yeah, it's pretty.
I don't know either.
And, as long as we got stuff to look forward to and focus on the present. And rather than think worrying about what's in the past.
Yeah.
I've come to terms with it. It was really painful the first, I knew it was going to be 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And took 2 years to try to get up to it. But this thought of finally going to somebody and getting arrested. He realized it was arrested and get him a new psychiatrist.
What hard does it get though?
I don't think any of it, truthfully.
And, so yeah, so it's been coming. He may have known it at the time he resigned from the Conservation Commission, I don't know. And that may have been part of the motivation, because he saw he wasn't.
He's honestly, I guess, he's literally.
It's kind of like when I resigned from UNH, it was like,
We can talk about this.
I was getting to the point where I was swearing at work. You know, and that's very inappropriate, UNH, you know.
Oh, right.
It's not, it's a very proper
Okay, that's
place.
fair.
And I thought, okay, well, I'm beginning to lose it, and I'm beginning to get loose about how I behave. And it's probably a good working out.
Right.
So I resigned early, but that was only just because I
That's when
was,
that was sold.
I was ready to do something else, you know?
Yeah.
You get that way. So, but anyway, he's doing pretty well, I'd say. His, you know, these things go. We've been struggling with getting his sleep, getting enough sleep. And that's all about medications. Getting that through.
Yeah, really, you can take a while to
Someone's
get
calling
rid
you.
of stuff.
It
Someone's
does.
calling you.
Yeah.
You're being kind of-
Learn how you react to things.
Well, it was pounding on the glass.
And we finally got a doctor.
That's too funny. He's like, I'm just
Could be
here.
right.
Okay.
All
All right, we'll go over there.
That's great.
You can go to a non-public.
You do.
Great.
So anyway,
I move that we
we are
go into
doing
non- oh, I
well.
did the non-public first.
Hope you guys are doing well.
Yeah.
Right. And we will continue our, the rest of our
But
meeting at
otherwise,
6.
Well,
Okay, we're staying healthy.
And John's on
Move that we
target
go
all the time.
into
Oh my gosh.
non-public
I
NHRSA
don't know if the town would do that to
91-A:3 to
Well, good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
A
And
and L.
tell Bill I said hi, and
I do not believe so.
I might not get to an email till
Great.
first of the year, but anyway,
Roll call.
Yeah,
that's great. Thank you for letting me know
Yes.
what's going on.
and you may see him at
So moved.
upcoming monitoring and that sort of
Be
thing.
in non-public, and then we'll come back to
Meetings.
work on the meeting, and then, and the public hearing will be at 6.
You're good.
All right, good, I'll go. That's fine, whatever.
I think it's right up to the wall.
So you're not impressed, huh?
That's the most richest builders. Otherwise, you just
Is it a
hear.
white noise machine? Is that what that is?
Yeah, because otherwise
You can hear everything
hear
that
what's
goes on
going
in there.
Oh, okay,
There's a-
yeah. I've never been to one of these. That
Oh.
makes sense,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, it's-
but
it's-
It's supposed to be private
Right,
in there, because they're talking
Hear it through the wall.
about personnel or something.
right.
you
I was wondering, well, maybe I thought that was one of those things to keep spiders away or something.
know.
No,
We were here one meeting, and you could hear them in there. It was kind of, the voices were
now we're on to new business.
Based on your conversations at your last meeting, I had pulled the history of the part-time employee leave time policy. You had initially approved part-time employee leave in November of 2021. You had a split vote, but it was 2 in favor, 1 against. You updated that in February of 2022. And essentially clarified that those part-time employees who have worked for the town for at least 6 months and have consistently been scheduled for at least 20 hours a week shall receive 24 hours of vacation time and 16 hours of sick time beginning January 1st and ending December 31st of each year, effective January 1st, 2022. Said leave time will not roll over or accumulate from year to year. I think this was brought to you at the behest of the DPW director,
Yes, at the time.
Okay.
with the approval of the fire chief, as they had the most part-time employees. So at the time, the DPW director had considerably more part-time employees. He had 2 building part-time employees, 3 transfer station part-time employees.
Right. And then we just discussed it last time, and so we're just reviewing that. It has been said, that is, there you go. Great.
Rebecca had a question about.
Yeah, I was just curious, like, is this kind of on par with normal part-time leave
I think
policies?
this is, I think probably a little more generous than a lot of part-time employee policies. And that was, my recollection is that's why it was limited and didn't roll over, was because it was really above and beyond what a lot of part-time.
When someone new is hired, do they get a copy that's like, do they sign it saying that they've read it?
The personnel policy, yes.
Okay.
And the old personnel policy, we've just rewritten the personnel policy again to reflect changes that have occurred over the last 18 months or so. The old one had no mention at all of vacation time, never mind rolling over for part-time employees.
And I assume everybody's gotten a copy of the updated one and signed something saying they've read the updated. Okay. Then I don't have an issue.
Anything else in new business?
Mr. Bugby had indicated that he wanted to talk about not economic development ideas, but community cost sharing ideas. That was in response to the email I had sent about talking to the cooperative extension.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We have 1 minute to 6, we're gonna hold that until after.
All right, so we'll start with Speedway and then go to. All right, so I'm gonna call to order the public hearing. We didn't do a public comment earlier.
Oh, okay, well, we could do that now.
First of all, if anyone has any public comments before we go to the public hearing, which you will be able to comment then too, but something different you want to talk about, you can come on up to the 3 minutes. You can speak about whatever you like. Okay, none being there, then I will go ahead and open up the public hearing for the Lee US Speedway 2024 licensing application public hearing. There we go. Yeah, do you want to just start with any public comment? Yeah,
I don't know the process, I'm
well,
sorry.
it's always different, so come on up if you have a concern or a comment you'd like to make.
Hello, I'm Corinne George from 36 Tamarack Road. Tamarack neighborhood borders the Lee Speedway. I've been there for about 20 years. I first want to compliment the Speedway. They did an amazing job with all the food donations they did this past weekend to families in need, so kudos to the Speedway and the new owners for giving back to the community. I do have questions that I'd like the board to please think about. It seems like over the years, the number of races that are back-to-back have increased. In looking at this coming year's schedule, it seems like there are quite a few Saturday, Sunday events, either racing 2 or 3 days in a row. I think that's difficult for community members. Literally in our neighborhood, if you're outside and the wind's right, and it's difficult to have conversations, difficult to certainly plan events. I'm also concerned about the number of races on Sundays and how late they will go. I see it's blocked for 10 hours, and in terms of how that will impact people on the next day for work and for school. I'm concerned about the Columbus Day weekend rain date being Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That is a big holiday weekend for a lot of families. And with them racing all 3 days, it pretty much eliminates any outdoor activities or adventures that we could have in our local area. I will say that my children are now young adults, and we love going to the Speedway. We certainly enjoyed many happy memories there, enjoyed a lot of their events. We also love their fireworks. They do an amazing job. It's a very family-friendly event, so I'm glad to see that back on the calendar. I am concerned that they have fireworks 2 nights in a row. I do know for a lot of veterans it provides some post-traumatic stress disorders, and for animals it's very concerning. So I was not sure why there were 2 nights of fireworks. It used to be that rain dates were on Sundays, and I wasn't sure with the new schedule if the rain dates are only those 4 that are listed, or if they were typical Sundays. Years ago, we had an ad hoc committee that looked at all the racing and the sounds and the racetrack at that point in time. I know different owners did an amazing job really doing new microphones, and sound really has been, we're not as impacted as we were years ago. I'm wondering with the change of ownership, if the measurement is still happening. There was a system set in place for it to be 97 decibels and like a pole 21 foot. Are those measurements still being taken, and are the violations being looked at and addressed accordingly? And I hope that continues going forward. I do know that a couple of the weekends that are Saturday races are, so when everyone moved into local near the racetrack, you knew the racetracks were Friday nights. You just expected that was a part of life. Now that they've creeped into more and more and more weekends, it definitely impacts us. For example, it's now conflicting. There'll be races on, the graduation weekends for both UNH and Oyster River, and that's something that will affect our local community. And then lastly, I think I read in some recent select board minutes that perhaps the fire and the police were both understaffed and they weren't able to take vacations. And so I know that they have to hire additional police and fire for all of these events, and I'm wondering how that will impact our local fire and police personnel, because we're already stretched too thin, and having these back-to-back weekends and back-to-back days, how that's going to impact our personnel who deserve vacations and time off, and now they'll have more to add into the mix.
Great questions.
So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Do you want to address some of the
Sure.
issues first? Thank you.
Good evening. So for the sound monitoring, it's never changed.
Okay.
Every race, I put the decibel reader out on the extended pole where the sound engineer designated it to go. I download the information every Monday, but there have not been any violations. It takes a 2-second snapshot every time, and occasionally there's 1 2-second snapshot that might be a little over. But if you look at the time, so while the race is going on, I have the race schedule, and I write the start and stop times for each race. So then when I download the sound meter, I can go back and I can say, okay, at 6:26 p.m. there was this number, and I look and I say, okay, it's this division. And in previous years, if it was more of an issue, then I contacted the owners and say, hey, this division is loud. And they've gotten right on it. And I've got to say that the current owner is actually, not to slight the previous owners, enforce things much more. So there's a lot of stuff that used to be okay that's not okay anymore. So I think that's why it's gotten better, and you've noticed the sound isn't as bad. As far as police and fire, I can speak for police. We always rely, even when we were full staffed, we could never fill the details. So we always rely on other agencies. So you go down there and you'll see Barrington, Stratford, Durham, whoever, and that's how we fill the details.
Thank you.
Oh, many good answers, thank you. How about the dates? You want to talk about some of the extra, did you want to add something? Sure.
If you want.
Yep, come on.
Hi, I'm Linda Kahn. I live on 44 Tamarack Road. Been there for like 28, 29 years. And the racetrack has always been there, and I've spoken several times about this. Definitely there's been a transition from the Friday nights into the entire weekend. Friday nights, there's less impact. A lot of the time, it's already dark, you're not outside, you're less likely to have cookouts and whatnot, people over. Having it transition into Saturdays and Sunday definitely impacts the people that are there and have that sound much more so. And I looked for it online, couldn't find it, but I know that the ordinance for the racetrack does give the select board, it's a very small little section of words, that it gives you the ability to protect residents under your discretion for when they race. And I would ask that we don't allow one individual business to override the interest of how many families and housing that is around there, not just Tamarack, but all around. It really does impact, I'm looking at the dates, and I have 2 kids graduating from UNH in May, and I'm like, great. I don't have a day that weekend that I can have an outside party. And clearly, that's what anybody else would do. I'm thinking, I pay taxes just like everyone else, and I should be allowed to use my outdoors. I shouldn't have to be relegated to indoors, windows closed, air conditioners on, just so I can have a conversation. So I definitely think switching over to more Saturday, Sundays, when it's an all-day event versus the Friday night, which, we just say, okay, that's what it is. It's much more of an impact. Switching to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, well, now I have no weekend unless I leave. So, and you think like, right, everyone uses their weekends to recharge. You kind of get ready for another long week to go back in. Well, now, if they're allowed to race for those 3 consecutive days, that won't happen. So, I understand that for them, they're putting things in a group, but it means it's probably going to be louder. There's going to be more people. It's going to be more of a harder for us because there'll be people camping. They'll be there over the weekend. We won't just have races. We'll be having people. You can hear through the woods with the music and everything of people being on there. So definitely am opposed to switching to more Saturday, Sunday, and the triple Friday, Saturday, Sunday dates. Because I would every year look at the schedule and I would try and plan it around. I'd be like, okay, I know it's this Friday, I know it's this Saturday. Oh, it might be a rain date, so, trying to do it. But giving them the entire weekend, I'm like, great, you can graduate and we're going to celebrate you next weekend or something. It's just crazy, unfortunate for, I think, to have them have the entire weekend. I do also want to know, they have 10 hours listed on their schedule. And again, I couldn't find this online, even though I've had it in the past. What does that mean for a start time? What does that mean for an end time? Because I don't remember that being listed before, so I'm wondering if that's a change, or if, is there a specific time they have to start by? Is it time they have to finish by? So that, and does it differ from Friday, Saturday to Sunday? Type of situation.
Great, thank you for the questions. How do you want to go ahead and address the questions? Or do you want to have another question? Great, come on, yes. Get them all out there.
Irene Boisvert on 30 Demerit Avenue.
Great.
And that was one of the questions that I had, is what is the start time and what is the end time? And looking at the dates, I was rather shocked to see that it was going to be 10 hours. I just find that just excessive. And again, I think about, was there any consideration given to people like who live in Tamarack, Demerit Avenue, Cartland Road, Fox Garrison, Mitchell Road, all of that, because we get the brunt of it. And, just as the nice weather comes, the speedway opens up, but then so do us. We go outside, we're gardening, we're doing yard work, and I find even after 6 hours, after a while, it's like, why am I feeling so edgy? Oh, that's right, they've been racing for 6 hours. And, I just don't think that it's healthy that, any resident be exposed to that amount of time of racing. And I've been here for 42 years, so I know that the speedway has been there. And I don't want to see it go away. I'm not asking that happen, but I think there needs to be consideration to the residents, and considering the fact that the town has approved it's a residential zone. And there just seems to be a conflict with, what they're asking for here, and then, people's quality of life in that area. I guess that's really it. So anyway, I just would like, for these hours and all to be reconsidered. And I agree, with the other comments that were made earlier. In some cases, May 17th, May 18th, June 21st, June 22nd, that's like 20 hours of racing per weekend. That's a lot. And then we have 30 hours in October. It just doesn't seem to be reasonable. Okay, thank you.
Do you want to address something?
I can speak to the 10 hours,
Yeah.
the times to start. So for a normal race day, they're allowed 8 hours of racing from the time they fire a motor. So if they fire a motor up at 4 p.m., the last race has to be started by 11:30, and whether it's allotted number of laps, it has to be done by midnight. So if it's a 100-lap race and they're at lap 25 and it's 11:59, I'm telling them to shut it down. The 10 hours comes in when they have a bigger race, where they bring some of the bigger shows in. The town has allowed them that extra 2 hours, so if they're supposed to start, let's say at noon on a Saturday and it rained, and they can't start until 2, they can still get their 8 hours of racing in.
Thank you.
I could just note that I have some of the historical documentation for the licensing hearings in the past. The 10 hours that's on the 24 schedule pretty much mirrors the 10 hours per event that was on last year's schedule. The 2 years prior to that were mixed between 8.5 and 10-hour events, but the 10-hour events have been a fairly standard part of the last 4 or 5 years at least.
Can I ask a question about the timing?
Yep.
So I have the noise ordinance, because I happen to print that out. And it has between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Sunday through Thursday. But you guys are saying that they're allowed to race until midnight?
On Friday or Saturday. Friday and Saturday is a different time.
But so then on the other days, they need to be done. So Sunday, they would need to be done by 10?
Yes. And I can't remember the time they've actually raced past 8 o'clock on a Sunday.
I will know that, and I should probably write down the times, but I'll know that, it'll be late, and I'll be sitting there waiting for them to end, because I'm like, all right, I just want to go to sleep, and it is so loud in my bedroom that I can't.
If you want to continue, we can have you come up and speak some more, or do you want me to have them?
They can.
Okay,
I got one more.
okay, come on up.
William Crotty, 50 Tamarack Road. I've gone to the racetrack for a long, long time. I absolutely love Friday night racing. But recently, as the weekend creep just keeps going and going, just, number-wise, back in 2019, I understood the Oktoberfest was a big, huge event, which is great because you get racers from all around the area coming for the last race of the season. That was the big weekend, and then you get maybe a weekend race in the beginning of the season to get everybody testing and tuning. And that was, in 2019, you had 16 Friday night races, you had 2 Saturday races, and 1 Sunday, maybe 2, depending on the Oktoberfest and another event. In 2021, there was 19 Friday night races, and I believe only 4 Saturdays, and then 2 Sundays. So that was like an early, Oktoberfest and what have you. And weekends were supposed to be for special events for the track. Noticing last season, just right on their calendars, Sundays were weekly racing. To me, that's not a special event. That is we don't want to do it on a Friday night, we want to do it on a Sunday. Maybe we'll get more people there, maybe not. I know that they're probably concerned with the Friday night traffic and what have you, coming up from Massachusetts or probably not from up north coming down. But, you know, in 2022, you had 7 Saturday races and 2 Sunday races. And now we're going to, let's see, 2023, there was 4 and 3. And then also now 2024, there's going to be 4 and 4. So it just seems to be creeping. It doesn't seem like they're special events. It's just we want to move from Friday to Sunday. And that doesn't really help the communities that are here. We love the track. We love Friday night racing. You know, when I built my house right next to the track, it was great. But now it's many more Saturdays and many more Sundays. And from June to September, there are 5 Saturday and Sunday races. Compared to back in 2019, there was none. Or, you know, 1 in 2021, then it stepped up in 2022, 2023 to where it was 5 and 3. So that's where it just started creeping. So the question is, when's it gonna stop creeping? Okay, how many weekends do we have to get, you know, to go out in my headphones, you know, or what have you, you know? So, you know, absolutely love the track. I just don't like the weekend creep. That's all, you know. So, and I do appreciate the other Saturday, Sunday events, and I definitely don't count the muscle cars. I don't count the you know, the shows that you, I think it was like some sort of car show that you guys put on those events too, those days. It doesn't produce any sound, but it does have patrons there, which is great. But, you know, those ones we, you know, aren't really counted part of the racing schedule. But anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, appreciate you coming out. All right, do you want to respond to some of those concerns?
Sure. Good evening. I'm Ben Bzowski. I'm the owner of Lee Speedway. This is John Espadette, my general manager. The Sunday concerns, mainly those would just be for rain dates only. And the reason why I didn't really want to do any Sundays just because I have another racetrack in Hudson that can only run Sundays. So it's pretty much I'm like robbing Peter to pay Paul type of deal. And the amount of dates I took off at the other tracks I was able to do, but Sundays is like my last resort to run at Lee. What was it? The reason why we don't have as many Friday dates is because we're trying to pull away from weekly racing. I know we put it on there as weekly racing, but it really isn't. There's this division called Pro Stocks. They are far from a weekly division racetrack. They are the best of the best. They're pretty much, 2 steps down from NASCAR, like the Cup Series. So they're not really a weekly division. We just put it as that just for our sanctioning reasons for NASCAR. But we are trying to just do less dates we don't want to do 19 Fridays, and we thought it would be easier to just kind of condense them down a little bit from going from 22 to 26 races to drop them down to like 12 to 14. We just think that Lee is more of a bigger event track than just a little weekly track, because that's what it was built for, was for big events. I'm probably missing some. I get a little nervous when I'm up here, so I'll admit it.
How about the fireworks, the 2 nights of fireworks?
There's only one. There's only one. If anything, was it for a rain date?
There could have been a rain date.
It could have been a rain date,
for
but
the fireworks. The only other thing I wanted to add is that there's not a scenario where we will be racing 3 days in a row.
Okay.
So it's only 2-day shows, and there's only 2 of them. The 2-day show in July or June, that's the Friday night of NASCAR weekend. So we're actually supposed to have a couple of the NASCAR drivers come down, and that usually brings in a lot of people. So if it rains out on Friday, then we would have that Saturday in hopes of.
So even though it doesn't say rain date, you've really buffered, there's a lot of buffer in here so that you have it clear. I think we had some trouble last year where you couldn't do a firework because of the way it was written or whatever. This way it's covering you. But you're not doing all these dates.
No.
Okay.
We just put them in there just to, like you said, as a buffer. That's really it.
Okay.
Do you know which day it's going to be? Because you have them down as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's completely my fault, I fat fingered it. It's, the 22nd is a rain date, and I did not put that down. That is 100% my fault.
The rain date fire.
For the 21st,
Okay.
yes, I'm sorry about that.
Is that June 22nd you're saying?
June 22nd, yeah, and that, it would be a rain date, not 2 days in a row.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a full weekend?
No, it's a Friday night show, and
No,
if it happens.
that was a Friday night show, just because of the drivers.
And the questioning about the other rain dates, I know on the weekly stuff, somebody had mentioned they only saw 4 rain dates. That's all we're gonna ask for. If the other ones rain out, then we're just gonna
We'll just call it a day.
But you're saying these Sundays here, like the 30th, June 30th, and the August 11th, those, and the October 6th, those are not ones you're planning on using, or those are?
Those are ones we are planning.
Those are the ones we are planning on.
We are planning on using those. Most of those were due to the fact of what's coming in that night. They come from out of town with a lot of people from out of state, and that was the only dates that they were able to come.
Okay. And the holiday weekend being the rain date, I think that was a concern.
I know you stand.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So the 19th, is that the date in question?
So you have, right now, Oktoberfest is October 4th, 5th, and 6th, and then your rain date is 11th, 12th, and 13th.
Okay, for Oktoberfest. The only reason that we did that was because the following weekends after that, there are big events in the area, just to be transparent with you.
Do you guys have some thoughts?
Is Oktoberfest racing?
Oktoberfest, it's 2 days of racing.
Okay, so is it usually Friday, Saturday, or is it whichever
It's-
2 days are the nicest?
It's usually Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
They've, in the past, it was 3 days of racing. They did Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're trying to just have maybe a couple cars on the track on Friday night, 2 at a time, limited noise, just to practice, nothing big, and then race on Saturday and Sunday.
I have to say, as a resident, and I'll put the hat on, it's hard when you can't go enjoy your own yard. And I live way a mile that way.
Yeah.
And I have to listen to a book on tape or not go outside. And often I go back inside because it's so loud. And it does, it's enough of a noise that it's very hard to be comfortable. So it's one thing I think everyone agrees, like we all do, oh, Friday night, that's late, whatever. But it is hard when it's a 3-day weekend.
Understandable, and we know the noise is a big thing, which is another, something that we're trying to work on.
I think about the wildlife in the world too. Like, it's one thing if it's a little chunk of time, but if it's like days, that's a lot.
And going back to the, speaking of chunks of time with the 10-hour situation, all of our programs are live recorded from the start to the end.
Yep.
And the longest one that we had this year was just under 6 hours, or I think it was 6 hours and 5 minutes. And everything else in that was 4 hours and 4.5 hours.
The ones that we put on, we did have one outside promoter come in and
they used the whole
rent the
time.
track, and he used the whole time. John, and actually Tom can speak for this, I don't like to drag time. It's, when we fire, I want to get the show done in like 5 hours. 5 to 6, because my other speedway where I first started, I have 5.5 hours to get a show on, and first couple of years was tough, but that's what we're used to, and I'm a very stickler on let's get it going, let's get it done.
And the 10-hour break is also nice. I know Tom had mentioned rain, but we all just other things that we never thought we'd have to deal with. We shut down twice this year for an hour block for a resident in the area that was having a wedding. We actually did it once, and we found out it was the wrong date, so we had to do it again. But we nailed it, so we did that. It's just good to have that extra little wiggle room, sometimes. Just because we have 10 hours, we're not going to use 10 hours.
It's just a buffer.
Yeah.
And how many of these outside groups will be doing events? You said
Like an outside promoter? No.
Okay, so
These are all in-house this year.
These are all in-house, these are all done by me and Mr. Espernette.
And they say, like Ben had said, they do state NASCAR Weekly Racing Series. That's just the name that NASCAR puts out for us. We had a big talk this year, and we don't want to have just the weekly shows and the regular stuff. We want this track to have big marquee events that'll bring people from outside to the town, to bring more money into the businesses in town and vice versa. So that's really what our goal was, to kind of shorten down the schedule, make it less, but make it bigger.
So along those lines of renting the track.
You want to come on up to the microphone?
Yeah.
And the best thing to do is to speak to us, and then we'll speak to them and just make
So
sure.
along the same lines of renting the track out, I think it was a couple of years ago, maybe even last year, during the week, the track was rented out for practice. I know there's a lot of people that work from home, so for me, being on a Zoom meeting during the afternoon while the track's being run, it wasn't just a small car, it was definitely either a Pro Stock or, it probably was a Pro Stock. But, during the week, it's a little bit harder when the track's being rented out. So I don't know if it's being rented out at all this year at all, or is there a way to?
That's a no.
It isn't.
It's definitely no.
Yeah,
Okay,
we are
good.
not gonna be doing it.
Okay.
We were asked multiple times this season for people that wanted to rent a track during the week for however amount of money, and we just told them, no, that we did not wanna actually, poke the bear to say we didn't wanna make noise during the week if we weren't permitted to in the first place, so.
Appreciate that. Do you want to come up?
John Tappan, 187 Stepping Stones Road. I have absolutely no position about the racetrack. And I do think that in the past, they have tried to be very understanding. I do, though, have a very strong opinion about making decisions based on talking back and forth with something very, very different that's put in writing. And I think that what is in writing needs to be what is actually planned and being voted on and being accepted. And if that can't be in writing, I don't think you should be voting on it.
It's in writing in front of us, I'm confused about what you're.
He means if there's changes.
You keep talking about changes.
Oh,
what's
I think
in-
we're all trying to understand what we're looking at before we agree to something.
If a date is listed as a race date, but then you're saying, well, no, it's really a rain date, then what you have is not in writing. What you have in writing is not correct. And I think it's really important that what you're voting on is documented by what's in writing, not by having to go back and look at the video on YouTube to see what was it that they approved.
I was gonna talk to the UNH graduation. Have you guys, that weekend, I would think would also be very hard for hotels and like trying to get people in here. That's a terrible weekend to live here. You guys consider that might not be your best. May 17th, 18th is UNH graduation. I'm just throwing it out there. That's not probably in your best interest.
The reason why we have that date is we had a big sponsor want to do a big race for the Pro Stocks. It was pretty much, this person was trying to get everyone from the country to come here and do that race, and that was really the only date that would work. Because there's a lot of other tracks that do similar what we're trying to do. There's a snowball derby, which is, you know more of these than I do. Florida. Florida, and some out west and all that. There's one big one up here, but it's in Maine, and it's like driving in a parking lot. It's horrible. But we want to do something big here for the town, and pretty much kind of like this is the marquee event for New England, and Lee's the second biggest racetrack in the state. So we were just trying to do something big, pretty much.
I think you have used that date in years past.
Graduation.
Every
Always on the same
year.
page. We also, is it this year or is it next year that we're working on the bridge? That's gonna be causing some major.
Next year.
So not this year. Okay. Something to be aware of in the future.
Okay.
You just need to be aware that the bridge that goes over the 125, just a little bit north of the track, that's gonna be worked on. So
Only
they're
one
gonna-
lane.
Yeah, they're gonna
Okay.
take it down to
All
one
right.
lane and then switch over and do the other
Okay.
lane, so just be
Okay.
aware of that.
For this coming summer, or is it
2025.
2025? Okay, okay. We will make sure that we have that in mind.
Yeah, maybe we can work about, think about, when that is and kind of be aware, because that will, we already have traffic issues as it is, and then
Yeah.
add that, it's gonna be challenging.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions for us?
Any more questions?
Did you have any questions about that? All set?
Did you have something else to add?
Yes.
So just to add on what Mr. Tappan had brought up about these changes, the fact that it's not a 10-hour, it's 8 hours of racing or less, whatever. I agree with Mr. Tappan. I would like to see this schedule revised to reflect what we discussed here in terms of whatever, 6 to 8 hours with a 2-hour buffer. What is clearly going to, intended to be a rain date and not a race date, because there has been a lot of changes discussed. So I think in all, fairness and better understanding of what to expect, that we have this revised. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Can I say
Yes,
something?
please.
So, a couple of things. One of the parts of this particular job that is not great is balancing business needs against residential needs. It's pain. These particular gentlemen need to have an income coming in to pay for that. Their taxes are substantial. So we kind of have to give them a little bit of leeway. One of the questions I have for them, though, is this trend to going from Fridays to Saturday and Sundays. Is that something that you guys are going to continue to do? Is this as much as you're going to take in terms of those weekends?
This would probably be the most we would take for weekends. Like I said, I have this track to run. I have one in Claremont and one in Hudson. Pretty much this would probably be the max we would take, because I don't think I have enough energy to do more, I'll admit it. But yeah, this would pretty much be the most we'd ever take.
Another question, I think it was the previous owners, they had some, it was a third party that came in and rented the space for doing some, it wasn't racing, it was like doing J-turns and stuff, evasive driving and stuff. Is that something you guys looked into? Because I know one of the problems you guys have, I won't tell you your business, but in terms of getting revenue and things to come in so that you can make it a going concern. And I don't know if that's something you guys continue to look into?
We've looked into other resources for, like, there's the drift guys that want to come in, it's not racing, it's pretty much just evasive driving, like you said.
Yeah.
They're very hard to get a hold of, and they go all over the place, so trying to get them to show up is like pulling teeth. We did have, well, not me, but the previous owner had monster trucks there. The only problem with that is that they book up soon, and then their rates keep going up and up and up and up and up, and then they want more from us, and we can't, it's pretty much we're picking the carcass of what they would bring, so it's like, it's not really worth it. But we have looked at other resources. We've done, how many cars? We have 2 car shows?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 2 car shows this year. That will help a little bit. But we have looked into it. We are looking into more stuff, believe it or not. We're actually looking into electric racing, so it's, yes, yeah. I sponsored a car down in Hudson that he built, the electric pro stock. We're just trying to figure out how that's gonna work, because we don't know how long the battery's gonna last. But we are looking for alternative stuff to do at the track, but right now is pretty much racing is really the only thing that makes sense right now. But we are looking, and we're always open for options if anyone has any ideas.
So just in terms of EVs, not too much sound with EVs, right?
No,
So,
no.
All you would hear is the tires.
The tires
Yeah.
still make noise.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, it's noisy.
Not even.
No, not even close.
So I think maybe the residents would like the idea of all EV racing.
You're probably talking like 25 years into the future. We're getting there, though. There is steps into that. It's just there's a lot, like we're like in the stone age of EV stuff for racing right now. There's not a lot of people want to do it, and everyone's afraid of batteries and all that stuff.
So with the NEVI funding, they're discussing either Epsom or Epping or Lee as a level 3 charger. Somebody should be writing a letter and saying, we'd really like a level 3 and Lee, because that'll help you get those charges back up.
That's true. But yeah, we're always open for different ideas for stuff for the track.
So I guess I would agree with Mr. Tappan and everybody else in terms of, this is a document that we need to sign, and this is what they're going to go by. So I would like it cleaned up so that it reflects what we're actually giving them permission to do. And I think in terms of the thing that you talked about in terms of the time, I think that needs to be clarified as well, so that people understand what it is and what it isn't. So
Like I said, the 10-hour grace period, it's mainly if it's stuff that's out of our hand, like if it's raining or if someone gets hurt or whatever, it does drag on. So it's the reason why we put the 10 hours in is just in case for that. If this whole schedule went for 10 hours, I'm sorry, but I'd have to go to classes and do a better job because I wouldn't accept it. And neither would John. But like I said, the 10 hours is just a buffer. That's like last case scenario.
Did you want to add something?
I do, I just want to clarify something that,
I just wanted to say, I've heard a lot of the racetrack is a business, the racetrack pay taxes. If we pull together all of the households that pay taxes that are affected by the racetrack, we're gonna dwarf them. Yet I often find that when I come to these meetings, and I don't always come because I feel like, why? I'm not heard, I'm not important, I'm not dollar signs to you because I'm just one house, but I am part of this community. I'm part of all of the residents that are affected by this track. From the time frame that I've been here, almost 30 years, I haven't heard anything about, there's some things they could do for sound deadening. They don't. We're switching from Fridays to Saturdays and Sundays. Friday night, the amount of time that I would be outside is half, a third, to what it's gonna be on a Saturday and Sunday. And from what I'm hearing, kind of judging, I'm concerned that they're gonna get everything they want and that you're not gonna support the residents. The original ordinance, when they agreed to allow this track to be somewhere where it's non-conforming, they're non-conforming, I'm where I'm supposed to be. I understand they were there, but non-conforming, it gave the select board discretion. And it didn't say it had to be this or had to be this. It gave you discretion to alter the schedule. And again, as in years past, I'm going to ask you to do that. Friday racing is different than Saturday and Sunday, all-day racing. For me to not have 5 Saturdays in the summer, to not have 6 Sundays, that's a lot. It is a big change. And we've given plenty of things. The racetrack, can now sell beer. We've done other things that we're like, yes, business. Do business that's more friendly to your neighbors. Realize that you're in a place that you're going against what everyone else's rules. I couldn't do the things that they're doing. So sorry if I'm frustrated, but there are a lot of residents who are not here, Lee residents, that if you ask them, they're going to be like, yeah, what am I going to do? And I hear sometimes from the police that, well, no one's calling and complaining. Because I know if I call and complain, nothing is going to change because you don't really have the power to do it. The select board is the one that has the power to change these dates. It really does affect people's everyday life. There's only so many days, nice days even, during the summer for us to be able to get outside and enjoy our property, which we are paying for.
Thank you.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
So on the sound part, which I totally understand, when I first bought Hudson, it was pretty much, it was down to its last thread. I know I'm talking about a different track there, but I just want to give an example. Same problem. There was noise issues that, it'd go to 2 in the morning with people racing, that it just didn't matter. When I took it over, I had a lot of people say, hey, the track is so loud, I can't even open my windows or anything. So when I first bought Hudson, I put a sound dampening wall around the backstretch and parts of turn 3 to see if it would work. It does work. I'm actually adding more at Hudson. When I looked at Lee, I saw the same thing off of turns 2, backstretch, and then off of turn 3. You have the billboard walls, but there's a 10-foot gap between each one. So I was debating on just pretty much connecting them all the way around, and what that would do is it bounce the sound back into the track. which would help deaden the sound. I know this works because when we did at Hudson, there were steel buildings across the pond, and it would echo and then bounce it right over to the next neighborhood. When we put that sound barrier wall up, it deflected it by, I don't know the number, so I'm not gonna guess, but it did help out a lot. Which, like I said, this is the first year of me owning Lee. I'm always willing to figure out how to make the track better for, the racing and the neighbors. I noticed there's some vegetation, but not a lot, that it could dent sound. Arborvitaes are notorious for breaking sound. I was gonna plant a good amount of them around the speedway to help deaden the sound. Like I said, first year owning it, I wanted to see what I needed to do, what wasn't needed, or what needed to be, so.
I think the community is very clearly stating that this affects all of us in a very negative way, and we want to be supportive. Everyone, they also said we appreciate the track, but it really does make a weekend hard to enjoy, and it makes it hard to enjoy where we live and how we experience ourselves. And I really think if there is some work that can be done to make the sound tolerable, it would be very helpful, because this isn't a fair way to live. I get that you're a business, I get that you need to make money, I absolutely support that. So yeah, maybe that's one of the big things we could do to try to live together a little more kindly. The deer in Lee are fierce, and arborvitae is a favorite snack. So I would definitely suggest planning ahead on that.
Well, then we also, with us not going back to the old schedule of 19 to 25 races,
yeah,
would help out too. So you're not hearing it all, up Friday, here we go, they're going again, whereas, you get.
I think what everyone was saying though is it's almost easier when you know that, and then you have the whole rest of the weekend free. It's really hard when it's day after day on one weekend, and you just need a break and like a mental, and you can't get that because it's every single day for you. That's a lot. And I personally am not excited about approving 3 days in a row. I don't think it's fair. I think that that's too much to ask of anyone. I think that we need to really think about what we can do to make this more tolerable for everyone. So I like the idea of hearing more about sound dampening, of really making this more enjoyable for everyone, and really thinking about what it's like. How do we live together?
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to, this schedule is definitely going in a direction that doesn't feel like, I want to go outside and work in my own yard. And that's, I know that doesn't sound like a big deal to other people, but that's literally, people work all week long, and that's the one time they have to kind of untangle. So, so I think we need to come to some kind of a resolution on how to go forward. Do you guys have thoughts?
Well, looking at it month by month, I think helps a little bit, because when you look at month by month, other than Oktoberfest and June, it's really one Saturday or Sunday a month. So June, you have 3 Saturday and Sundays. Is there something we can do about June here so that it's not every weekend in June?
I think one June's a rain day for a Saturday.
It's not listed here as a rain date.
Yeah, that's the one that we'll have to fix that.
We'll fix that one.
So the 22nd is
The
definitely
22nd is a
a rain
rain
date.
day. That's not a race day. I apologize.
Okay, is there anything we can do about one of these other ones moving to a Friday?
There's only one other Saturday in June.
Well, there's a
Sunday
Saturday and a
in June.
Sunday.
Look,
Yeah.
a Friday and a Sunday.
Sunday,
Right, so-
June 30th.
They're all separate weekends.
Right.
Right.
Saturday, June 8th, Friday, June 21st, and Sunday, June
I'm
30th.
sure I could change one of those. I'm sure I could.
So, can we get it down to one Saturday or Sunday a month other than Oktoberfest, which I understand is a thing?
On one of those days, is it just a regular, which is it the, trying to keep track of 3
I
schedules.
understand, so it's a lot.
We should be able to.
Why don't we do this? Why don't I work with with them on this?
That'd be great.
So that's what we're
And then come
asking.
back and talk
Get it
again.
narrowed down, you can continue the public hearing right now, we don't have to repost it.
Perfect. And then, and let us know what you have for options for some noise dampening. That sounds great.
When do you have to know by? Because the next time you schedule to meet is the 3rd of January.
Oh, yeah, they need to make a schedule.
Honestly, the sooner the better, just so we can start promoting these dates. We haven't promoted any dates whatsoever. Probably
Right.
sooner the better would be, you know, more suitable.
It's up to you guys. The week after next is the 3rd. So you can meet next week, you can meet this week.
We're gone all week.
Yeah. We can meet later in the week if anyone has. It wouldn't be a long meeting to bring
We're looking at Wednesday or Thursday.
I can do Wednesday, I'll be in both.
Okay, so why don't you tell me which day you can do it, then before I text the babies.
Perfect, don't ask for, the only day I think I could do would be Thursday or Friday.
I can't do Friday, I can do Thursday.
Okay. At 6, is that what we're looking at?
I can do any time on Thursday.
Okay.
What about you?
Well, I'm at 4:30.
That you didn't
Yeah,
come to?
okay.
Yeah, that's fun.
Who noticed that?
So what do we think, saying?
No.
No.
Let's plan for 6, and there may or may not be a small child.
Are you good, 6 o'clock this Thursday?
Yeah, we can do that.
We can make that work. We can make
Great.
it work.
So send us whatever this thing is before the meeting so we can take a look at it.
Well, we'll work on it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that is the 21st at 6 o'clock. We will go through newly changed items, including some plans for sound deafening and changing some of the dates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you listening. So I'm going to continue the public hearing on to the 6 o'clock on the 21st of December. Do you have anything left to discuss on select board for this select board meeting?
Yeah, we have the, yeah, can we take like a 1-minute intermission?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commission,
How about potty break?
mixing candy and the popcorn and
Thanks for coming out.
thank you.
Your road washout? Can you get back into your house?
She wasn't sure. I told her to get out anyway before she put the new truck in the street.
Oh my God, we should end
See
the
how it's
meeting.
going to currently.
The meeting that goes on and on and on. Oh, man. I want to go.
It was weird, I got a phone call from my next door neighbors asking if I was going to go away tonight because there was a large tree across the road and they can't start their chainsaw.
Wow. Have a great night, thank you.
I told my wife to buy my chainsaw.
Nice. Things are exciting in Deerfield.
Today they were apparently.
Yeah.
Just as happy to be in Memphis.
I liked watching like sparks and fire flash on the electric wires as I'm driving off. Going, it feels like a bad time to be on the road.
Good witnesses.
Yeah, it was intense. My birds were not amused with the bird feeder certificate. Not having it.
Oh, everybody left.
We are here. Kitty got them all scared away.
Scared them away.
I scared them. I didn't know that left.
All right, Mr. Murphy, you had a topic for us.
One of the things that the ABC brought forward to us was looking at other towns and stuff, and I had a very interesting conversation with Steve. Steve lives in Madbury, and before COVID, you and Mr. Brown went, and they've had some discussions after that, and they seem to be, according to Steve, they seem to be very keen on the idea. They spend over $900,000 in terms of highway. So Steve says, just give me the 900,000, I'll take care of the roads, no problem. I don't know if he'll do that.
I bet he would.
But I think it's a time when I think we need to send the invitation to have a meeting with them to see if that's something they want to explore.
Yeah.
And if so, is it beneficial to us? Is it beneficial to them? They have a part-time police department, they have a part-time fire department. How would that work? Maybe the thing is, we try one thing and see if it works. If both people are happy, then we expand it. But I think it's something we need to do. Looking at the budget, which scares the heck out of me, the revenue seems to be kind of stagnant. And expenses, of course, are growing.
Yep.
Which if we don't grow revenue, it's on the taxpayer. And I don't think the taxpayer is very happy these days. So I think we should explore that. And I'm not saying just Madbury, maybe there's other towns that might be beneficial. But I think it's time for us to look and see if that's a possibility. And then Andy sent out the message from the gentleman from UNH that's starting this whole kind of thing, initiative kind of thing. So I think it's timely. And I think we need to at least stick our foot in the water and see if it's something we want to pursue.
Absolutely.
I think certainly talk to Eric in Madbury.
Great.
Do for joint meetings.
Hello.
Hi. About a year and a half ago, Brian Libby and Justin Doty came to me. They wanted to do a project of what it would be like to take over policing for Madbury. I talked to Joe McGann, and because we were gonna have to ask some questions, he said, yeah, absolutely, go ahead and do it. So they did it, and about 3 months ago, Chief McGann asked me for that proposal, what we thought it would take. I can share that with the board. I'll give it to Andy.
Great.
You can give it out to the board. Back in 1991, when I first became a sergeant here, one of the tasks for the promotional process was to figure out what it would take for us to take over policing from Madbury. So
Interesting.
it's been, the can's been kicked down the road that long.
And one thing we could think about, if you look at Madbury, it's a large triangle. It doesn't make sense. Maybe it's not all of Madbury too. Maybe it's that, the part that's over Durham, they talk about that with Durham, and then the part that's right over, I'm just thinking, I don't want us to necessarily have to, but maybe that's something we can think about. Do we take over all of Madbury? Do we take over, a piece of it? And I think it's great. Any conversations we could have sounds great.
Any coverage they have is gonna be better than what they have now.
Right.
Because they're having problems getting employees as well. So,
Right.
if you have a full-time department, obviously we absorb what they have.
Right.
And we're able to provide coverage. So, yes, we'll respond to every call.
Right.
But then occasionally we will actually do patrols.
Yeah.
There too.
Yeah, and I don't think that we're so maxed out with what we're doing in our community that wouldn't be possible if we had a little more staffing, which we would have.
We would have, because we would absorb theirs.
Right, so I do feel like maybe this could be a really positive.
Yep.
And I think highway as well.
One of the things that Steve mentioned in terms of, at least this is his opinion, of course, in terms of response time for emergency services, it's very long.
Yeah.
Because usually if there's a police call, either the state police show up, Durham shows up, Barrington shows up. So their particular officers are part-time. So if they're on patrol, yeah, but most of the time they're not.
Right.
And in terms of mutual aid for the fire department, who's closer?
Right. Right.
And they're part-time too, so it's usually probably, I don't know if it's us, how many, we go to Banbury, but Durham shows up a lot, he says.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
I think Durham was their first call.
if I'm a resident of Madbury, I have a heart attack, and I have to wait for somebody.
Yeah, that's.
So the ambulance shows up, but, is there fire people that are showing up? Is there police showing up?
Well, then, if it's a domestic situation, your ambulance could get there first, but they're not going in.
Yeah.
Right.
Until we get there and make the scene safe.
Right.
And just the other week before last, they had an accident on French Cross Road. They didn't have anybody on. The trooper went flying through here about 30 minutes after the initial accident call came in.
Wow.
So,
30
and not of their fault, because they're short-handed too, so they probably had to pull him off of 101 down by Candia.
Right.
So it's,
Sounds like there's benefits for Madbury, and the thing is, what the benefit would be for us.
The cost, because we are shouldering this huge cost, and if we can share the cost and we're just adding a small addition, that means that they're getting better services and we're not having to have as much.
Right.
And the other part is that we haven't even discussed is in terms of the transfer station. We're set up for, kind of like are the, I don't know about poster child for the rest of the state, but people come from other towns, to look at our transfer station, and it seems to work very efficiently. So add in another, what is it, 1,600 residents, something like that.
Yeah, around there, yeah.
So, and they do,
They have trash pickup,
they have trash pickup.
so it would just be recycling and all those things.
So, but the thing is, in terms of Madbury, I get my trash picked up, now I have to go someplace.
Right.
I don't know how that would go over, but.
Yeah, it's farther than your community, that's hard.
You
Yeah.
could probably, depending on how their trash pickup is set up, you might be able to work out some sort of tipping fee agreement.
Yeah.
Now, you look, it's not a lot of business. Businesses tax you a lot. So it'd be, and you know, I hear during the day, not a lot of calls.
Well, that's one of the biggest complaints that our fire and police department has, is it's not that interesting. So if you're not increasing your size, there's probably more things you're gonna do, more varied things.
Something other than accidents of the circle.
Yeah, I mean, we've really done our share.
But I think what I propose is that the select board and the town administrator visit them, or they come visit us, whatever. But then if that progresses, then involving our department heads that would be affected in terms of giving their input in terms of, I see this is an issue, or this
Get
would work.
Andy that report first thing tomorrow.
And we could always say that we're gonna do a 6-month trial or something like that too. We don't have to, you know, swear the rest of our lives will be combined forever.
Yeah.
Be a, see how it goes, especially while we're in a time when we're understaffed and pilfering.
Yeah, and I mentioned in the email that I sent, Nate from UNH Cooperative Extension has been in regular conversation with Nate Gray at New Hampshire Municipal Association, and there is a fairly straightforward legal framework that you can use to adopt these kind of community agreements that Nate has supposedly readily at hand.
Hey, did you find out from him or somebody else at Municipal Association, what other towns already do this? So let's not recreate the wheel if they've
All
done
the
it.
towns in the south do work in
What were the issues that you experienced? What worked and what kind of didn't?
Right, in New Hampshire right now, I do actually have the names of those towns. This has primarily been a Coos County, Grafton County thing where there's not population, not tax money, and not service.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's one town, Hillsborough County,
Maybe.
by the Keene area.
Yeah, when you get over into Leinster and Surrey and
Yeah,
some of
yeah.
those smaller, more remote towns.
Greenville.
Greenville.
Temple, Greenville.
Okay. Monadnock, is that what that is? No. Is that Monadnock?
Yes.
Temple would be, they would probably kick you for including Greenville, but.
You have some questions?
Come on.
John Chapman, 187 Stepping Stones Road. There may also be a possibility for purchasing and an advantage. The savings may not, certainly wouldn't be as great, but an advantage could be that larger community purchasing could be made not mandatory. In other words, if you decided to move your police service to Lee, well, you do all of it and you're in a big commitment. If there's opportunities for purchasing in bulk, where it could be arranged so that there's going to be a purchase of skid steer loaders, then instead of one, you've got several towns and you've agreed that we're going to buy 3 of them. There's not as much commitment, and maybe more towns would be interested in grouping that way.
Interesting. Did you have something else?
Jimmy?
Toilet paper.
Point.
Jim Brady, 246 Walby Falls Road. When I lived up in Colebrook, the fire department up there took care of some towns on the outside, Columbia and 2 or 3 others.
Stark is in that?
Huh?
Stark is in that, aren't they?
No, Stark's down too far. That's down below Groveton.
You don't interrupt.
That's all right, that's all right. I'm just saying, I don't know the specifics, but I did know, and it was a small town, I can't even think the name of it right now, that was along, along the river, right across from Colebrook, and they gave them so much money a year for the fire department and so on. And that helped, so the fire department budget wasn't very harsh on the town because they had that money to put in their fire trucks and so on. And there, because that's where most all that time was all volunteer help when I was up there. So, I was just saying that that's what they did up there because town of Columbia is mainly all, well, just people, there's no town there really to speak of.
And if you think about the distances, they're
And it is a long distance in Columbia, let me tell you.
And they can make that work in the bigger distances.
Because someone come from North Stratford when they have problems and stuff, but that was one thing they did. They had a budget, but they gave so much money to the town of Colebrook and, okay.
We currently do it with the ambulance. We don't have our own ambulance. We work on one together. So great, thank you. All right, so that sounds like a hot topic for the coming year. Exciting.
So maybe we can ask the town administrator to set up something after the new year.
I will talk with Eric Feigenbaum, the town administrator, and go from there.
Perfect. Yeah, when we're at that post super stressful budgeting and pre
After
that little
deliberative
sweet
session.
spot, yeah, there we have a little bit of time. That'd be great.
Maybe after deliberative session.
Yeah, that'd be great. Things settle down.
Because I assume, does that, well, one of the questions would be, if you've spoken to Natch already, is it something that the select board can do, or does it have to go before the legislative body, these particular?
Might be legislative, right?
I believe it's legislative body, but I'm not 100% sure.
So even if we wanted to, we wouldn't do anything this year anyway, so it's not like, oh gosh, we have to do this quick,
Right.
so. Okay.
But as you know, if you wait to talk about anything, it's too late by the time you get to it. All right. Are there any other topics we'd like to discuss this evening?
Oh, you moved on to new, what do you want?
I'm at the point where I'm
Just been
ready to
jumping around.
wrap us up.
She's
You got
jumping
something?
around.
You just
I believe
bring it
Scott
up.
had something he wanted to send us.
All right, someplace here, where is mine? Yes. So, I spent the weekend going over the budget and the salary sheet that you sent me. I'm a little bit frustrated.
Okay.
So hopefully you can help me. I went through all the salary information from this particular sheet, and many of them didn't match. So that concerns me. I also, during this call I had with Steve Bullock, he was not very happy because somebody put in raises for all of these people and he didn't put those in. He's very frustrated about that, so I spoke to him about that. So I looked at both of these sheets and they don't match. So what I would like to ask, with the ladies' permission, is for you to go through the salary sheet. I assume everything on here is correct. I assume that. I would like those particular salary numbers loaded in to the budget, and I would like to use this particular sheet for us as a group to determine what those salary increases are. So you go through here, put in a COLA or whatever it is, put in merit or whatever it is, it'll calculate all those particular additional amounts, and then we can put those into here. So right now, you've got some people with increases, some people with not. So that will not make this easy.
what I wanted just what we are currently paying everyone without any of the increases that
That's
they
what
requested.
this is, I assume.
Correct, which is what I asked for.
So that needs to be translated into here, onto the budget for the boss, the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, the only numbers on that budget under department head came from department heads. Those
Yeah.
numbers were not changed.
Then,
We don't know where, I don't know where Steve's.
Those
coming
were filled and double checked by the department heads. In fact, weeks ago, before they went to you, those all went back to department heads and said, please verify your budget numbers for me.
all right, well, maybe that didn't happen, but either way, this does not match this.
Okay.
Well,
It shouldn't, because one
It
is the
doesn't.
request for the future, and this is what we have
why
right
would they
now.
match, though, I'm confused.
They wouldn't match, they don't match, they should match.
They shouldn't match, because this is their current salaries,
This
and
is-
that's what they're asking us for.
That's this column, I'm saying for
So you
this
want the
column.
Board of Selectmen column.
Yes, because
to be their
then we can
current
use this
salaries.
particular spreadsheet to figure out what those COLAs are, what the merit is, all that stuff is.
Right now, the Board of Selectmen column should match exactly the department head column.
Yes,
And the department head, the numbers under department head are what the department heads provided.
I understand that, but some department heads put in raises and some people.
So you're asking that the Board of Selectmen column doesn't reflect department head is anymore, you're asking that it's this sheet that I asked to be made just so that we would have a place to work on that without messing up the budget.
Right.
You're saying you want them to match.
Because then you get into a situation where department heads ask for a $10,000 raise, and we don't have it over here.
Right.
So then you get this dichotomy. So,
So have it so you can see it on the budget,
yes,
the difference. Okay.
because this reflects what we're paying now, this reflects some of what we're paying now, but some of what the department heads put in for increases.
Got it.
That is confusing, at least for me.
Okay, I will attempt.
Well, they haven't agreed, so.
Yeah, I'm happy with it just being on one sheet, but if it's easier for you to make sense of, then if there's a way to transfer and change the department head request and be, the board of
No,
selectmen.
I don't want the department head changed.
Sorry, the board of selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen column to reflect the current wages,
Select board,
so we can compare them.
And then,
Board of Selectmen line you want as current wages.
The Board of Selectmen column.
Correct.
and one thing I didn't find on here is you've got overtime on some departments, but in the DPW, you didn't seem to have overtime. Maybe I missed it, but.
Shoot, there was a DPW overtime. I'll go through and make sure.
Don't see a
it's in there.
DPW on that. The other thing is, could you identify under the fire department who is the full-time and who is the part-time? Because right now I only see one full-time firefighter. And if there's, because I know you just hired 2 more, correct? So there's a total of 4.
Full-time or one part-time?
He's got, one is coming on in December 27th, and then there'll be one coming on after that,
No, they're both coming this month.
at the end of the month. They weren't on that because I had no record of them.
Do you have that now? Because that needs to go into the budget too.
It should, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Because you've got one in here, it's listed as 2,200 hours, which is basically full-time, and you've got it down here as part-time.
Those are from the fire chief's delineation.
So if you can look at that, if he's working 2,200 hours, he's full-time, but it says he's part-time. So can you check that out?
I will.
And also, you've got the former tax collector in here, but she doesn't appear in here as far as I can tell.
No, she was in the existing salary because she had done some fill-in work
Okay, all right,
on a random basis for the
okay.
town clerk.
Other than that, sounds good.
Okay, I can change the DOS now.
Do you have other topics you want to discuss?
No, that was my hot topic.
Great. Anyone else? I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Did you find the dog, did you?
Hmm?
Did you find the
Yeah,
dog?
yeah, they found him actually in Newmarket, chasing a deer. For sheep, mall.
Here,
See you later.
been on my fence next to the road. Nothing to have 10 deer